What is good, people? xLordxHades here, bringing you a video where I'm just really quickly going to go over all the stages I believe that should be considered for legality in Ultimate for competitive play. First, we're going to go over the ones with hazards on, and then we're going to go over hazards off. The great thing about Smash Ultimate is we are going to have a lot, and I mean a lot of stages that we can choose to use for competitive play. It's going to be quite glorious. Without further ado, let's go into my random stage selection. This provides a pretty easy way for you to, kind of check off all the stages that are busted. So, Battlefield, first of all, legal, obviously. Probably a starter. FD, legal. Probably a starter, maybe a counter pick, just because it can be really polarizing. We'll have to see how that goes in this game. And Dreamland, hazards on, I actually don't believe should be in the game, because we have Dreamland with hazards off, so we don't have to deal with wind. Because there are so many triplat stages, the legality of that will kind of determine on how much the platform heights differ, and if they differ, how much that affects different characters. Because certain platform heights are going to be better for certain characters than others. For example, on Battlefield, Falco can full hop, land on the top platform of Battlefield, and also auto-cancel a back air or a down air on said platform. So you can't do that, for example, on Fountain of Dreams, which has slightly differing platform heights on its hazards off version. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Dreamland. I apologize for taking so long for that one, but it kind of got into my thoughts on some other things. Yoshi's Story is another triplat, but I believe the heights are different. The platforms extend to the edge rather than just before the edge of the main stage. And then the stage also has lips like that on the side, which angles your down tilts down, certain things like that. I think the variety will definitely be interesting. We're going to skip over quite a few. Pokemon Stadium with hazards on, I don't think we want to deal with, because glorious Pokemon Stadium with hazards off exists. Yoshi's Island 3DS, I think, would be a cool map. Hazards on. I believe the Shy Guys do drop food, so that might be a reason why we wouldn't want to use it. But the hazards off version, the platform in the middle, doesn't tilt with weight. So the hazards on version does have that unique mechanic, as well as having lips and then a dip in the center. So it's not an entirely flat stage. I'm not sure what exactly that's going to change in this game, but it's certainly going to be something. Smashville, perennial. I believe it should be a starter, maybe a counter pick. This one is obviously a counter pick, by the way. Yoshi's Island is a counter pick. Yoshi's Story is probably a counter pick as well, just because they have weird properties. And Smashville, if it's as polarizing as it is in Smash 4, should be a counter pick. If it's not, it should be a starter. That's just my opinion. Next stage on the list is going to be Town and City. This is kind of going to be the end of all the hazards on stages, because most of them have some busted shit going on. Town and City is pretty much the same as it was in Smash 4, so it is fine. We're going to use Town and City. Alright, so let's get into the hazards off stages that I think can be in the rule set. And this is where we get a lot more variety, because certain stages will not transform anymore, and glorious things like that. Battlefield, redundant, that's just in my rule set, because FD also redundant. Yoshi's Story will not have Randall and will not have Shy Guys, so if the other version is banned, we can at least use this one. Fountain of Dreams, hazards on. The platforms move. I don't know why I didn't talk about this in the last one. Hazards off. They stay at the layout that you see on the screen the entire time. It does have a different top platform layout from Battlefield, so if it's determined that the frame drops that people say they've experienced on the stage don't affect competitive play too heavily, I think both variants of Fountain should actually be legal. However, if the frame drops are consistent, no Fountain. We don't want frame drops. Consistency is key. We want this game to actually be nice and competitive. Pokemon Stadium, absolutely should be legal hazards off. I love this stage. It's really good for Falco. 2 static platforms on the side. It's good. There's nothing wrong with Pokemon Stadium. Both of these have the potential to be legal. I will do a video comparing the two and see if they have differing platform heights, differing blast zones, or anything like that. I believe using that new radar function, it'll be easier to check how large the blast zones are, so I'll look into that, and it should be interesting. But both of them are great. I've played on them a few times. I believe the platforms are closer to the edges on one, but we'll test that out and see in another video. Somebody else, I'm sure, will get to it before me, if I don't. Frigate Orpheon, I actually was kind of digging in hazards off. So the top platform has a ledge on the left. I don't think it had one on the right. The bottom platform has a ledge on the left, and the far right platform, when it moves, has a ledge on the right. I don't think it has a ledge on the side that meets the wall, though the main stage does when it's not connected to the smaller right-hand side platform. This stage isn't really that jank, dude. Like, it's different. I think this should definitely be considered as a counter pick. Yoshi's Island, mentioned this on the hazards on. I definitely want this stage to be legal. However, if the Shy Guy food ends up being too polarizing, then we can use this version with the static center platform instead of the tilting platform. This one also doesn't have the platforms far out on the sides that you can land on and save you, so there is that to consider as well. Castle Siege doesn't transform, and I was actually really against this stage when I heard people talking about it should be legal, just because I've never liked Castle Siege, but that's pretty much because it transforms. A Castle Siege without transformations is actually pretty interesting, and obviously a very different platform layout, so I believe Castle Siege should be a counter pick in hazards off. WarioWare Inc. hazards off is really good. This will probably be the smallest stage and should absolutely be in the metagame. Probably as a counter pick, just because you're going to die early on this stage, and everyone kills early. Like, it's glorious for ladder combos with Zero Suit, but I think just because of how low the blast zones are, like, any character that has any kind of, like, lateral strings or upward strings is going to love advantage state on this stage. Plus, if you don't want to get camped out, you can definitely come here. Like, this stage is small. Like, that, nobody's running away from you on this stage as anyone. So, WarioWare, absolutely hazards off, should be tournament legal. Okay, so next let's talk about Unova Pokemon League. I believe all of the Pokemon League, it's this one. I feel like I banned Spear Pillar hazards off. Yeah, I think I banned Spear Pillar because it still had some shit on the bottom. But Unova Pokemon League is just another double platform layout. They're much higher than on Pokemon Stadium, either variant. So that obviously creates a different dynamic. I think Unova Pokemon League with hazards off should be in the rule set. So before we get into the really weird stages that I'm on the fence about, super on the fence about, let's talk about the last ones that are like really okay. We're not going to go into redundant. Wait, actually Smashville's not redundant. So the platform on doesn't move. It just stays in the center. Both versions of Smashville should be legal. The hazard, this one is probably more neutral, whereas original Smashville with the moving platform is probably a counter pick. On this one, it's just static in the center, so much more consistent. And Kalos Pokemon League, again, has different dual platform spacing from all of the other Pokemon levels. So I think that hazards off Kalos Pokemon League should absolutely be in the rule set. And it's fucking gorgeous, dude. Like, who doesn't... This is the best Omega in Smash 4, besides maybe, like, Gower Plain. So, like, Kalos Pokemon League should absolutely be legal in hazards off. Town and City, hazards off. Keeps the platforms in the original layout, which is not the one pictured on the screen. It'll actually have the top platform in its lowest position and the two side platforms where they are. However, it still transforms, which is weird. I think there's an option to turn off transformations as well, but regardless of whether or not that's the case, I think both versions of town should be illegal. I think it's more neutral than Smashville, actually. Like, I genuinely believe that. I haven't tested that. That's just like a gut feeling based on what I've seen from the 2 stages in the past. I feel like town and city should be neutral in both versions. At least a counter pick. And here's where shit gets weird, guys. So these last 3 stages, the one I think should, for sure, actually be in is going to be Mushroom Kingdom U. Now, Mushroom Kingdom U hazards off does not have anything jank about it. It's just a really big main platform with walls, and then has this 3-platform layout on it. There is really nothing wrong with it. We've never had a stage this big in Smash before, but because of how fast all characters are now, everybody has a dash. Pretty much even the slowest characters can get around to some degree. I don't think projectile camping is going to be too degenerate on this stage, and the platform layout is different as well. If we're going to have the extreme of WarioWare, I think we should definitely have something that is a very polarizing opposite to that. I would love to have more variety in the size of stages, because stages in Smash 4 and even Melee, for the most part, are pretty close to the same size. Like, FD is really big in Melee, Dreamland's really big in Melee, but, like, the spectrum isn't that large. I think we definitely want some large stages, and it's not, I swear, it won't be too campy. I don't think it's going to be disgusting, and if stages don't work out, we can remove them from the rule set. That's the beauty of having so many, is we can determine what's degenerate as things go along. We want this game to have a long lifespan, so if it changes along the way, that's fine. It's going to be a while before we have a consistent metagame developed anyway, and we should try new shit. So here's where it gets weirder. I'm going to mention these two in kind of the same segment, and that is Skyloft and Woohoo Island. Now, they're both pretty wide stages. You can't see Woohoo here, but it looks like kind of like a... Y'all have seen Woohoo. It's flat in the center. It looks like a skateboard with a center platform hiding over it. So the issue with both of these, and Skyloft similarly, is just a big flat platform with a unique platform layout. You can go through the stage from the bottom on both of these. Now, I think if we determine that that's a deal breaker as a whole, like, just quit watching right now and you need not hear it anymore. But being able to go through the stage, I'm kind of on the fence about this personally. I think Skyloft and Woohoo should be considered, and then I can imagine it being degenerate, but what if it's not? What if it's fine? What if these are actually viable large counter picks? What if some characters want to recover through the stage, have a hard time getting enough height to get to a ledge, or you can mix up by like coming through the stage and back airing them off or something like that? It might be interesting. They both don't transform or anything really crazy. They pretty much stay the same layout the entire time. Yeah, my suggestion is add these to your random rotation and determine for yourselves if they're degenerate. They're not like... It's not like Delfino Plaza. It's not like Halberd. Like, they're definitely not as bad as stages like that, where you can go through the stage. Mostly because they don't have any hazards, but... Yeah, I think those should seriously be considered. And I believe that actually wraps it up for all the stages I believe should be considered for competitive play. Certain ones that we had in previous games, I was messing around on Duck Hunt. We might be able to consider the hazards off version, the hazards on version. I feel like the dog is even more active, and like all the shit that's going on in the map is even, like, it happens more often than it does in Smash 4, and it's just really annoying. It messes with gameplay and combos and it messes with everything. Like, it's not a good stage. Hazards off, maybe. But we all know how this went before. And Lilat, fuck that. No. If we do end up allowing Woohoo and Skyloft, which you can go through the stage, Lilat, just because you... Lilat is inconsistent. That's the problem. Most of the time, you're going to bounce off the bottom of the stage if you get hit into it, but there is that one clip that fucking Esam already posted of a guy getting, he's like firefoxing up or something, the guy runs off, back airs him, and he just goes up through the fucking stage, like without, he doesn't have to tech or nothing, and then the guy who ran off and back aired him, like, fell to his death, because he was like, what the fuck? Yeah, no, fuck Lilat. Get that out of here. I already mentioned regular Dreamland, we don't want that. Delfino Plaza, degenerate. Halberd, degenerate. I think we should consider maps like Kongo Jungle. Hazards off might be considered for doubles, just like Big Battlefield. But for singles, I think absolutely not. These stages are no. Kongo Falls as well, maybe a doubles stage, not a single stage. Hazards off. But that should actually wrap it up for this video. I've gone over all the stages, guys. Let me know what you think of them below. I don't know how many we have, but I didn't count. It's a lot. It's a lot of stages that we can choose from in this game. And that's a good thing, because the more stages that we can have that are not degenerate, more, like, different characters are going to have different things on different stages, and the more stages you have with more options means that characters that might not be viable in a metagame with only like 5 or 6 stages are actually going to be viable, because you have somewhere you can take people that you do well. And because of the variety, there might even be multiple stages that you do well on. So we might have to go to double bans to see if we can cover it. Like, you know, it gives a lot more, it just gives so much more depth to the game. People watching aren't going to want to see the same 5-6 stages every time. Like, how much do you want to hear Smashville music, like, as a spectator, you know? As a player, obviously we like that stage for its consistency, but even we hate hearing the same music all the time. Like, variety is going to give this game longevity, and I feel like all but the most of degenerate stages should be allowed, you know? That sounded wrong. All the stages we can make not degenerate and consistent should be allowed, which is all the ones I've outlined. Anyway, if you enjoyed, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. We'll be doing a lot more Smash Ultimate content. My Doom playthrough is still going to be continuing. Halo's hyping up again, so we're probably going to have shit for that at some point. My channel's going to be doing a lot this year, y'all. Follow me on Twitter. If you'd like, you can donate. PayPal link will be down below. Yeah. Peace out, y'all.